When my daughter-in-law's family came to meet me for the first time, I didn't dress fancy. I wore a faded blue dress, old flats, and a cardigan I'd owned for years. I wanted them to see me just as I was. Simple, real, nothing to hide. I remember standing in the doorway that morning, hands shaking a little. I wasn't always alone. For most of my life, I had a husband who worked with his hands, fixing cars in our small town garage. We didn't have much, but we had enough. Our home smelled like coffee in the mornings and wood polish on weekends. My husband used to whistle when he worked, and I'd hum along from the kitchen. We built a peaceful life, slow, steady, full of small joys. We had one son, Daniel. He was our pride, bright, kind, always curious. From the day he was born, I knew he'd go far. When he went off to college, I cried for days. The house felt too quiet without his laughter echoing down the hallway. But every Sunday he'd call me, "Hey Mom, how's your garden? Did you make your pie again?" We'd talk for hours, like best friends. Then he got a job in the city. Big, exciting, full of possibilities. He sounded different, more confident, a little busier, but still loving. And one day he said, "Mom, I met someone. Her name's Emily." I could hear the smile in his voice. "She's amazing," he said. "You're going to love her." I looked at her picture when he sent it. She was pretty. Big brown eyes, perfect hair, a bright smile. I thought, she looks sweet. Maybe she'll love him the way I do. But after that, our calls got shorter. He talked more about her job, her friends, her lifestyle. Less about home, less about me. I told myself, he's growing up. That's how life works. Still, a quiet ache stayed in my heart. When Daniel said Emily's parents wanted to meet me, I was nervous. I spent the morning cleaning, rearranging, dusting every shelf. My neighbor said, "You should dress up, impress them," but I shook my head. No, I want them to see the real me. And that's how I met them. Emily's mom and dad, standing in my tiny living room, looking around at the old photos on the wall and the furniture that had seen better days. After that visit, things changed. Slowly, but noticeably. Emily's parents never called again. A few weeks later, Daniel told me they had planned the engagement dinner at an expensive restaurant in the city. He hesitated before saying, "Mom, it's a small thing. Don't worry about coming. We'll take lots of pictures for you." I smiled through the sting in my chest. "That's fine, honey. Just be happy." When I hung up the phone, I sat there for a long time, staring at the quiet around me. The house had never felt so still. Months passed. They got married. And I met Emily again, this time as my daughter-in-law. She was polite, but distant. I could feel her guard up, like she was afraid to get too close. Once I made them dinner, chicken pot pie, Daniel's favorite. Emily took one bite and smiled awkwardly. "It's different from what I'm used to." Daniel said nothing. He just looked down. That silence hurt more than any insult could have. Over time, they stopped visiting as much. Calls turned into short texts. When I'd ask when they were coming over, Daniel would say, "Emily's parents want us to spend the weekend with them. Maybe next month." I told him it was okay. I always told him it was okay. But sometimes I'd sit on the porch at sunset, holding my phone, hoping he'd call, and he didn't. One day, I saw photos online. Daniel and Emily, smiling, surrounded by her family, celebrating her birthday. I wasn't there. That's when I realized something painful. I wasn't part of their life anymore. I was a shadow in the background. Still, I kept loving them from a distance. Mothers don't stop loving just because they're forgotten. Then one morning, I got a call from Emily's mom. She said, "We'd love to visit again." I was surprised, but I agreed. I cleaned the house, baked cookies, and wore my same old blue dress. When they arrived, they smiled politely. Emily's mother looked around and said, "It's so nice that Daniel turned out successful. You must be proud." I nodded. "I am." Then she added with a sweet smile that didn't reach her eyes, "It's nice that he's not weighed down with too many responsibilities." I understood exactly what she meant. She saw me as one of those responsibilities. I smiled anyway. I said, "Yes," softly. "That's all a mother ever wants, her child to be happy." When they left, I stood by the door long after their car disappeared. The cookies were still warm on the table, and I felt smaller than I had in a long time. A few months later, Daniel called. His voice was tight. "Mom, can we come by? We need to talk." When they arrived, I saw the tension in their eyes. Emily looked nervous, twisting her ring around her finger. They sat down, and Daniel said quietly, "Mom, Emily and we think it might be better if you move closer to the city, maybe to a senior community. It'd be easier for us to visit." For a moment, the world went silent. I felt the air leave my chest. I asked softly, "Are you saying you don't want me here?" Daniel avoided my eyes. Emily said quickly, "No, of course not. We just think it'd be more comfortable for you." But I knew. I heard the truth behind those careful words. They wanted space. They wanted their life without me in it. I forced a smile. "All right," I said. "If that's what you both feel is best, I'll think about it." When they left, I didn't cry right away. I just sat there, looking at the empty coffee cups, the half-eaten cookies, the sunlight fading through the curtains. Then it hit me all at once, the weight of being unwanted. I let the tears fall quietly, without anger, without noise. That night, I pulled out an old box from under my bed. Inside were the things Daniel didn't know about: my savings, the papers for the house, and a small note from my husband before he died. "Don't ever forget, you built this life with your own 2 hands." I wasn't poor. I wasn't helpless. I just never felt the need to prove it. The next morning, I called my lawyer. I made arrangements, signed documents, transferred ownership, and wrote a simple letter. A few weeks later, Daniel called again. He sounded worried. "Mom, are you okay?" I said, "Yes, come by, I have something for you." When he and Emily arrived, I handed them an envelope. Daniel opened it and froze. "Mom, what is this?" "The house and everything in it. It's all yours now." He looked at me stunned. "Why would you do that?" I smiled softly. "Because I want you to have it. I don't need much anymore." His eyes filled with tears. "Mom, why didn't you tell me you had this kind of money?" I looked at him and said, because I wanted to see who loved me for me, not for what I had. For a long time, no one spoke. Then Emily started to cry. She knelt beside me and whispered, "I'm so sorry, Mom. I didn't understand. I was so focused on appearances. I forgot what really matters." I touched her hand gently. "It's all right. Life teaches us all in its own way." After that day, things began to change, slowly but genuinely. Daniel started calling more often. He'd stop by after work, sometimes just to have dinner or fix things around the house. Emily changed too. She began visiting on her own, bringing groceries or flowers. Once she said, "Can you teach me that pie recipe you always made for Daniel?" We stood side by side in my kitchen that day, laughing at her messy dough. It felt nice, simple, real, human. Sometimes she'd look at me with quiet guilt in her eyes. I never brought up the past. I didn't need to. Forgiveness had already found its way into my heart. A few months later, they had a baby, my first grandchild. When they placed him in my arms, I felt something inside me heal. Emily said, "We want him to know you. We want him to learn where kindness comes from." I just smiled through my tears. Then teach him to listen to his heart, not the world. From then on, every weekend they visited. We'd sit on the porch, Daniel rocking the baby, Emily sipping coffee, me knitting quietly beside them. It wasn't perfect. Some wounds never fully disappear. But there was love again, a gentle, honest kind of love. One evening, Emily's parents came by too. Their tone was different this time, warmer, softer, full of small apologies hidden between words. I welcomed them the same way I had before, with coffee and cookies. Only this time, I didn't feel small. I felt strong, because I had learned something powerful. Humility isn't weakness. It's quiet strength.